Did you get him?
You didn't see it? Don't rewind it, I'll show it again later. Talk about high fence hunting and kind of some of the mental gymnastics that I had to go through the entire time that I was there, but I realized that this video doesn't need that. I'm gonna make that its own separate video. So however you feel about high fence hunting, just put that on pause for a minute and then enjoy this video for everything that it is, because it offered a variety of things that you will never get in nature. Like, it was a really interesting special hunt that didn't turn out how I thought it was going to turn out. So we get to the ranch and go up to the lodge. We literally drop our bags. Here's your room, here's where you're staying. Get your gear on, we're heading to the blind. It was like, oh, no, there's no time. We're jumping in here, we're doing it. Like, it was just like shove you into the deep end. We jump in the UTV and they bring us straight to our blinds that are there for the night. So I'm in one and Kirk is in the other, and there's no one else at the facility. I'm not in the blind for 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, white-tailed deer just start walking out. And then from my left, black buck doe start cruising out from the side. Right from the start, 10 minutes in, when those does start walking in, I was like, here we go. That dude in the UTV just circled around back, opened up the cage, those suckers started coming out. I knew that that was not what happened, but that was immediately what I assumed. So a buck walks out with that group. He wasn't the biggest one there, and I'd literally been sitting in the blind for 10 minutes, and I was like, really? This is gonna be over this quick? We're gonna shoot this thing, clean him up, eat him tonight, and be gone. And I was kind of like, I don't know that that's what I want. But I kind of got ready. I was like, all right, maybe if he clears, I'll take a shot at him. But he never cleared. Every single opportunity that I had, the arrow would have passed through him and would have gone through 6 other animals. Like, there was so much activity at the feeder that night, it was crazy. About an hour later, a bachelor group of 4 walks up by themselves, and they walk up from a different direction, take me by surprise just a little bit, and there is a good one in this group. Like, he's a big dude, and I said, you know what, I don't care if we've only been here an hour and a half, I would take this guy. So I go to kind of reposition in the blind, I draw, and I realize that I wasn't exactly set up how I wanted to, and so I go to scoot back a little bit. I'm getting kind of inside the blind. I'm not as comfortable as I want to be. I draw back and I'm just waiting for the same thing. I'm waiting for him to kind of clear and come around. I'm waiting for them all to calm down a little bit more, kind of like whitetail do, and start to graze and start to work around so I can get a good broadside shot. And what I realized was that wasn't happening. They don't do that. These suckers they don't just hang out and graze. When they're in this type of scenario, these dudes are moving. Moving. And no sooner had they showed up that they just walked off. I never got the shot that I wanted. And I was like, oh, that's all right. I mean, clearly this isn't going to be difficult. They're obviously just showing up to the feeders and I'll get another shot at this. Right? At the feeders that they show up to. Because you're in a high fence. And that's what they do. No, it's not. So we go back to the lodge that night, get to hang out, have a great time, kind of telling stories and being with these people that own this place, that own this ranch. It's a cool family. Grandpa really wanted something like this, wanted to have something for his kids and his grandkids to be able to pass down, and that's why they started this place. Get up the next morning, go sit in the blind, nothing. A bunch of whitetail walk in, but no black buck at all. Kind of an uneventful morning. It was really hazy and foggy. The weather overall was pretty nice, though. We were supposed to get a lot of rain, But Kirk and I decided that we were going to start spot and stalk. So one of the guides drives us to a spot where in the back field, there's about an 80-acre section where it is wide open in the back. And you can see them a couple hundred yards away, just kind of laying out in the back over in this section. And we said, what we're gonna do is sneak up the right-hand side. There's a creek bottom that we can drop down into. We're gonna drop into this creek bottom, and then Kirk's gonna come up, he's gonna glass, and he's gonna let me know when they're coming, so that from this creek bottom, I can make a shot up as they're walking across this kind of bridge that was in between this bottomed out creek and then a pond that was there. What we didn't realize was that there were 2 fallow buck that were also sitting on that fence line, and as soon as those black bucks started working our way, those fallow came as well. And the fallow came right along that fence line where Kirk was, and Kirk literally thought he was gonna get run over as these things start kind of trucking it this way. So this beautiful chocolate fallow and this really light one are trucking it down the fence line toward Kirk. And you can see right here, he literally is ducking down, he's crouched, he's holding the camera up. He's not able to see the screen to touch to get it to focus on anything, which seems to be kind of a consistent problem throughout the video. I guess you can't just hand somebody a kind of complicated piece of technology not without any instruction whatsoever and be like, here, you'll be fine, you can do this. He's paying attention to the fallow buck, and what he doesn't realize is there's this monster pair of bachelors coming our way. They're just trucking it down this thing, and they're bouncing like mule deer bounce, just these huge hops. They weren't in a huge hurry, because when they're in a huge hurry, they just haul ass running. They were just hopping, and I was waiting for him to say, here they come, but he couldn't see them. They had dropped into a drainage that was a little bit lower than he thought, and he was paying attention to those fallow buck, and all of a sudden, hippity hop, those dudes just run 15 yards right in front of me. And literally, as soon as they came, I drew, and I thought, should I shoot one in the air? Like, it was just like this slow-mo moment of like, could probably. It was ridiculous. And now, looking back, I regret I didn't take that shot.
That was close.
I didn't know they were still coming.
I didn't either. I couldn't see him. All I could see was a fallow. Strike 2.
So we spot and stalk some more. Like, these things were dialed in. You were not getting close to them, and they could see you through the cedars. There was a couple of times where we would come out of stuff, and I'd be like, how are they looking at us right now? How is this possible? And at 80 yards, I took one shot where I literally was like, this is like some total archery challenge stuff. There's all just this mangled nastiness in front of me, and I was like, well, let's just see if we can get one through here. One of the bucks was kind of standing quartering to me, and I let it go, but as soon as I moved, as soon as I took that shot and snapped off, he was gone. It wasn't even remotely that the arrow was anywhere near this guy. He was out of there. At this point in the trip, we've sat in the blind for hours and hours, and they're not coming to the feeders. We've been in multiple different feeder and blind setups throughout the property, and we know they're there. We've seen them multiple times. There's 3 or 4 different groups. They're kind of like, hey, we've got rifles. Like, you can get 150 yards away from these things without them going off. You can get 150, 200 yards away from them, sneak in, and then make the shot. And I will admit that the very last day we were there, we grabbed the AR, put it on the UTV, and I said, if we can't get close, I'll take one with that. And I texted Jocelyn, and I was like, I just feel sick to my stomach. Like, I don't know if I can do it. I want the option when it's out here, but I literally just feel sick. Like, I hated the idea of going there. Not that a rifle is cheating, but going there with an intention. I intended to take this animal through a certain medium, and that was the compound bow that I brought. And to change that game plan because they were too difficult to get to just felt like cheating to me. So the AR is on the UTV. Kirk and I and the guide are working our way up to that same section where we had seen the bouncing bucks the day before. And it's the same kind of scenario, but they're in a field that's closer to this long hedge line. And we think, okay, we can crawl through this thick stuff and we can get out into this section and we can probably get a shot off. At the start of the trip, I was thinking I want a 30-yard shot or a 40-yard shot. Day 2, 60-yard shot, 70-yard shot. Day 3, by the end of this thing and I'm realizing what these animals were, I was ready. Let's stretch this thing out and see what we can do. So Kirk looks back at me. He's crawled on his belly underneath a barbed wire fence through all these thorns and thick stuff. There's this one little kind of narrow pathway that gets out in the field where we are. And he looks back at me and he goes, 100. And I said, are you guessing or is it actually at 100? Because like, what are the odds that something's just standing at 100 and he ranges again? 100. He's got the camera on the tripod, like he's tilted it up, spread the legs out. He's got the thing there. He can be looking up at the screen. He's like, all right, we're good. I dial the bow into 100, draw that thing back. We've got a little bit of a crosswind, so I set it right on its back haunches. He's standing left to right. So its haunches are on the left, and then on the right is its front shoulder. And I aim right at its rear haunches and let that sucker fly.
Oh, did you get him? He's running. Yeah.
Did you range that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounded like you hit him.
I heard a chunk, but I don't know if it was me hitting wet dirt or hitting him. The release felt pretty good. I mean, my body position I'm happy with. God. That's the closest we can get these bastards. What's specifically for the arrow? I don't know. At least we got a freaking arrow off that one. 100's kind of fun. We're going to say this far underneath him.
Shave. That was the Gillette shave of the day.
That's right.
Just a clean shave underneath them.
That was close. That was fun.
Yeah. No, it was fun, and I'm glad we got out here and tried. And I could pick up the rifle, but I don't think I can do it. I can't emotionally handle it.
Stay ethical, my friends.
Stay ethical, my friends. Keep the bow, even if you don't bring home the meat.
Well, that was fun.
No, that was great. That was great.
We shot from that cedar tree right there, 100 yards. It was close.
To know that we had crawled in, found a spot where we could actually get access to these animals and actually have the possibility of a shot on a spot and stalk scenario for some reason, I was like, guys, that's what I wanted to do. I took my shot. I obviously need to work on my craft and I need to work on getting better, but I'm okay with this. I'm not going to take the rifle. This one, the animal won. Dude, it's getting so dark. I'm sorry, I didn't even notice. I can punch this up. There we go. So yeah, I didn't get a black buck on a high fence farm, like a place that is designed to bring in these animals, to set them up, to pattern them, and then for you to go shoot them. I did not get an animal. So afterwards, we drove to Kirk's house, and I stayed the night there before I got on a plane the next day, and I set up this little interview. I asked him, I said, I want to ask you some questions about what we could have done differently or what I did wrong during the hunt. And you can see I have to press him a little bit because I asked him the same question a couple of times. And he says at one point, this is hunting, not killing. But after I turned the camera off, we had an honest moment where he kind of looked at me and was like, the expectation when he goes out with his wife, Charla, is that they make that 100-yard shot. Like, that's not a shot that those guys are going to miss. They're going to do everything that they need to do to practice to get ready for that, and they're going to make it happen. So that was a pretty eye-opening moment for me. Another thing is, Kirk is not nearly as short as he appears in this video. The distortion from the lens that we used, it makes him look like he's just this little tiny dude back here, and I'm in the front, and I'm like looming over him. So I assure you, Kirk is not this short, but he's a guy that I really respect. He's got a ton of insight, and he's a phenomenal archer. He's just been crushing it in tournaments down in the kind of Midwest, the southern Midwest this year, just murdering 3D targets, just doing a great job with it. So I'm super appreciative that I've had the opportunity to go out and do hunts with people like Kirk, and to continue to learn and continue to learn every aspect of this journey. Filming hunts is so hard. This journey is unbelievably more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But it's super rewarding and it's super fun. So we're going to keep going. So we just got done with my first high fence hunt that I've ever done. And it was an experience that I didn't do much research into. I didn't do any research into the actual animal, which at this point I realized was really, really dumb, because I didn't understand the capabilities of these little guys. They had eyes like freaking hawks, literally creeping through brush that, you know, had no sunlight coming through it at all. We're not skyline, there's nothing going on. And you just pop up just a hair and boom, they've got you. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask Kirk what we could have done different, what we could have done better, and what we could have done to be more successful in actually getting one of these little guys in the bag. Go.
I don't feel like we did anything wrong. You know, we gave it our best. We tried hard. We walked 5 miles one day doing stalks, and you know, as long as you're out there giving it your all, trying, you know, we didn't really do any errors wrong.
Sometimes you just don't end up coming home with something.
That's right. You know, it's hunting. It's not killing. So yeah, we put on a good hunt. Didn't come away with one, but we learned a lot, and next time hopefully we'll be more successful. But
so what should I work on between now and the next time I go out for something like these little guys that their senses are completely different to me than a whitetail, where the whitetail had, you know, they've got this incredible nose and they've got, you know, good ears, but their eyes are kind of not the best, and they're real slow when they come into a blind generally. Or when they're coming to a feeder, they're willing to slow down, but these little dudes, they weren't there for the food. They were just coming through. They just happened to be on the road, you know, running around just like spazzes every time we saw them.
Yeah, there was a little bit of rut going on. They were chasing, and you know, the first night you said they came by the blind, which when you're in a blind you have a better opportunity. Of course, you know, you kill more setting than you do stalking, but you see more stalking. So you just didn't have the shot opportunity. But yeah, when you're out stalking these animals, you know, a lot of belly crawling, a lot of long distance shots, just because you're not going to get close to them. There's too many eyes, and their eyes are too good.
What do you think? I mean, we never got closer. I took 2 shots, one at 80 and one at 100. Mm-hmm. And the one at 80, that dude had us pegged. Like, I mean, they were staring right at us. And the one at 100, nothing could have seen us, because you literally crawled out there flat on your belly, right? You know, you barely scooched the camera up. You barely got out to shoot, mm-hmm. and to range. What could I have been working on, or what do I need to work on again more next time to actually get one of these guys? Like, how far out do I need to be able to shoot my bow?
Eternity.
Yeah. I don't think my sight tape will go that long.
As far as you can.
Okay.
You know, stretch it out as far as you can. Practice as far as your bow will let you. You know, those slider sights that we use, the black gold ascent, you can, depending on your bow speed, you can get 130 to 160 yards out of it. Practice that far.
And you're practicing that far?
Oh, yeah. Practice that far. And, you know, about a minute angle per 10 yards is what you can expect. So, you know, if you can shoot a 16-inch group, 24-inch group at 160, then at 100, you know, you're going to be in the kill zone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you just be able to shoot a long way. You know, if you can, if you go out there, you know, can shoot 50 or 60 yards, and then next time you go, you can shoot 100. You just doubled your chances of bagging one.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me on this thing was my level of confidence. Early on, I said I don't want to shoot one past 40 because they're small. They're a smaller bodied animal. You know, they're maybe 100 pounds. The big guys. What do you think they are?
If that, yeah.
Okay, all right. So you're shooting, you know, at a soccer ball, probably maybe a hair bigger than a soccer ball, maybe a basketball, at 100 yards. And because you're not getting closer unless you're sitting in the blind. And at the beginning of the trip, I said, I'm good to 40. That's all I want to shoot. I'm good to 40. Because even that first time they came in at the blind, I was nervous. I just, you know, I didn't know what to expect. But by the end, I was like, I'll try at 120. Let's just go all the way out because we weren't getting the shot opportunities. So I think you're exactly right. That's a big takeaway for me from this one is I need to start. Generally, I practice out to 80, and then I'll shoot out to 100 on occasion. You know, just especially before like some of the Total Archery Challenge events. But I need to just start working out to 140 on a regular basis. You know, just bottoming out that sight as far as I can get it to go.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing that you were amazing at is understanding windage at that distance. Understanding how much, you know, I was aiming at its rear. The one at 100, I was aiming at its rear hindquarter. And there was enough drift that arrow came over probably a couple of feet at 100 yards and then went right underneath him.
Yeah, it just comes with trial and error. You know, people are like, it's too windy today. I don't want to go shoot. You know, I'm going to get out there and shoot in that crosswind, and so I can know, you know, what my arrow is going to do, how it's going to perform.
Yeah.
And like when it was raining, you know, I told you at this range, give it another 3 yards because this rain's going to drive your arrow down.
Yeah.
And headwind, same deal. You know, if you got a big headwind, give it a few more yards, because it's bucking that headwind.
Yeah, and I never would have. When the rain was coming down, I was like, "Yeah, that makes total sense," but I wouldn't have thought about it in the moment. You know, I just would have dialed in and then.
Yeah, get
shot.
out there and shoot when it's raining. You'll be amazed. You know, at 50 yards, you'll have to give it another 10 yards if it's raining pretty hard.
Yeah.
So all that's just being out there doing it, trial and error. And you know, I shot a pronghorn antelope at 139 yards, and wind was blowing. You know, there's no way I was going to get closer, and I had to hold 3 antelope off of him. So, but once you get it figured out, I mean, you know, when we're hunting in Kansas or wherever, and there's round hay bales along the road, we'll stop range. That's 150 yards. I'm going to hold a hay bale off of this and give it about 10 feet of wind drift at 150, and you'll see where you hit, and you'll know, and you can figure out the wind. And
it's because you're actually getting out there and you're actually practicing these shots, and that's the problem with a lot of us is we're just not doing it. Because you're exactly right. When it's raining outside, I'm like, oh, it's raining outside. I'm not going to go shoot.
Right.
When the reality is, I think the other thing I need to do is adjust my target setup because I don't want to waste a bunch of arrows. I need to get a bigger backdrop that I'm able to shoot into where I'm not actually burning arrows.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. Just like, well, whenever you went out and we were up at the camp, you know, I blew up an arrow because I was shooting at 140 yards in that wind.
Yeah.
And I pulled one a little bit, and the wind carried it the rest of the way, and I missed the whole bag. And
it gets expensive. That's the other reason that people don't want to do it is you start blowing up some freaking $20 arrow setups, and yeah,
right out there. You know, I've got that target sitting there, and then I'll put up a horse mat from Tractor Supply behind it.
Yep, that's what I've got behind mine. I think I need to relay them out so that they're wider. And I use cedar posts so they're a little more forgiving, you know, if I actually did hit the posts.
Or get you a dog like Gus who can find arrows in the grass. Yeah, he's good at it. He's had a lot of practice.
That's funny. That's great. Just bring them into you.
Yep.
Yeah.
He'll go find them.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that overall, and I'll talk more about the actual experience of you know, what it was like to do my first high fence hunt. But overall, it was not what I expected in a good way. had an amazing time, you know, shooting hogs in West Texas with my cousin and my buddy Scott, and then had a great time chasing these little black buck around this ranch with Kirk. Thanks again. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button if you will, and subscribe if you're not already. I'm Brandon McDonald with Kirk Bonds.